tonight.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, February 28th. The first item on our agenda is to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the regular session of 3/14/13 and a special budget meeting of 3/20/2013, as well as the acceptance of warrants 39V13 and 38P13.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, our student rep, Cole.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Very well. How
Good, how are you?
Good. So next week is the middle school play, which everyone is
Right.
getting ready for.
Yep.
We just had our last rehearsal before Tech Week, and it's all next week, so we're getting ready for that. It's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be a great show too. Very talented kids. And that will be the 5th at 7, and then the 6th at 2 o'clock. So
Do you have Charlie Mendez taping it, Cole? Do you know if
I
he's...
don't know that.
Okay,
I
check
don't know
that out
off
because
the
he
top
would
of my head.
love to tape something
Yeah.
like that, and the public would love to have the chance to see it.
Okay.
And how will people get tickets?
I think we will be either we're going to be selling them both at lunch and at the door, or it's just going to be just at the door.
Okay.
But if I'm not mistaken, we will be selling them at the middle school lunches.
Okay.
So there's going to be general seating too, so no worry about like trying to find your seat. You can just sit anywhere. So I'm trying to think what else.
Spring sports.
Yep, and
Anything
spring
yet?
sports. I mean, spring sports are underway.
This
but
is really
nothing, no games
earning his
yet.
money.
And I think tryouts are done. Everyone's on where they should be, and do we have any games yet? No games.
Monday's our first game.
Monday's our first game.
The
so.
weather hopefully will cooperate.
Ugh,
Some
I
nice
know.
weather.
And
And
any
snow
se-
will melt.
Any senior activities yet, or do you still have another month or so before?
Yeah, probably another month. I
Okay.
think the first senior activity that we have is the senior showcase, which the student council is going to be running, and that's going to be the 2nd at
Okay.
7. So that'll be really fun. So I can't wait to get all that stuff started.
And you had the frolic last week.
Yes,
How
we
was
did.
that?
I forgot about
Oh,
that.
they
Yes.
all look
Yep.
so nice.
Good.
Very,
They have
very
the Grand
good.
March, for those of you who are not familiar with how they do it.
Mhm.
And the kids come across the stage, they get introduced, and then there's a picture opportunity. And
Yep.
it's so nice because they all look so.
And where do they have?
Handsome.
Where do they have? Is it at the high
It's
school?
It
yeah,
was
it's
at
in
the
the
high
gym.
school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Grand March was through the auditorium this year just because of weather and everything, and then we just go to the gym, and it was
Was
decorated.
it New York? Was
yeah,
it
it was New York.
New York theme. Yeah,
Yep.
it was a New York
Night in the
theme.
city.
The gym
it was,
looked great.
It was awesome. Very, very good decorations. Very good food too. So.
Excellent.
Good.
Important for students.
Yes.
Alrighty. Let's see. So moving right along, public comment. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak on an agenda item? Don't everyone rush. Okay. Next up is the school building committee presentation. Ellie and Pat are here. So just so
Good evening.
Good evening. Just so everyone knows, like, we have a rep to the school building committee, which is Rob. And the reason why Ellie and Pat are here is just because I thought it was important that the committee just kind of get kept apprised of what's going on. It's not mandatory, but it's just more that, let's hear what's going on and, make sure, that we're all on the same page. And you guys are moving so fast. I just thought it'd be nice for a
And
quick-
there's certain miles,tones. Usually when
Yes.
they come, there's a new milestone, a new part of the phase or project that's done.
Actually, that is correct. We,
Yeah, no, and just, so we do have a rep that votes, but it's not the school, and it sounds bizarre, but we don't have, the school committee doesn't have involvement with the school building project. As time goes on, we'll be more involved with, as it affects our budget, and operations, through Carol, so. But anyway, all right,
well, thank you for allowing us this time to update you anyways. We just completed the design development phase and it was submitted to MSBA during the month of February. And along with completing this phase, we had cost estimates that were done by the architect and also our owner project manager, of municipal. And comparing both of these budgets, we're within 1% of our projected overall budget. And since we're only at 40%, that's considered really good. Where, everything's coming right in as it should, is really what that means. And, Pat, I'm sure can even elaborate, but MSBA has not seen any issues with what was submitted. So what I do is, actually, Carl, our architect, DRA, provided this little packet for me to hand out to you. And I'll just take you through it quickly. It will just give you a little update on the school itself. On the first page, you'll see a picture of the new school, where it will be. In the middle is where Pembroke is currently located. And when that building is removed, 2 fields will be placed in that spot. And actually, we're having a field discussion next week, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the Pembroke Library. I posted a joint meeting with GAA, Parks and Rec, and Concom, in case anyone is interested in attending, to get some more community input into how these fields should be, the sizes.
And this is at Pembroke
Pembroke Library at 7 p.m., yes.
next Tuesday.
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
April 3rd.
Okay. Sorry.
Because, the use of these fields is pretty town-wide. And we want to make sure that whatever we do is in keeping with the vision that these other committees in town have. And we have met with them in the past, so, we do have a good feel for what they're looking for, and DRA will be bringing their landscape architect, the person who is doing all these field designs, to answer questions, but also to receive information from them and suggestions.
Okay.
And yesterday, we had a kickoff call with MSBA to start the middle high school project, which I'll let Pat fill you in on that after we finish the Pembroke project. So do you have any questions on the layout? Do you understand how this is? And the layout itself hasn't changed, since we have brought plans to you before.
So I'm just curious, because it seems to me these fields are a good distance from the school.
They are.
And so kids going out at recess, because I know their recess times are so short, the amount of time that it's going to take kids to get to a play area.
They have a play area. I'm going to lift this up so you can see.
Okay.
This area right here is the
Uh-huh.
cafeteria.
Okay.
This whole brown area, in dark brown,
On both
and all up
sides.
here, is actually a playground.
Okay.
And on this side is the projected playground for the kindergarten area.
Oh, great.
However, they certainly can, by just coming out of the cafeteria, walk over to the fields.
So-
That's something the
Yeah, this
school
is-
will set up.
Okay.
I think a couple of things worth noting on this, in addition to those 2 locations, I'm gonna do a show and tell, because I think it'll be easier for you to follow. This is the current teacher parking lot, the existing road. So you drive in, here's the parking lot, and then it just continues on. So this whole area is what's new.
Right.
And the beauty of this is all of the construction taking place will have minimal impact on school life. This loop right here is the bus loop. So the buses will not be intermingling with car traffic. This loop will bring you to the front of the building. This is a potential drop-off area for kids in the morning.
Okay.
So the traffic will flow this way. Once you get to this point, it will be one way. And then the buses will just loop in that way. But they'll be dropping off right here next to this play area and the cafeteria. So the students will enter that way if they're in a bus. Okay?
What are what are the red areas, the reddish brown?
That's play area.
Those are play areas.
Yeah.
So okay.
Actually,
For
the
the
darker
playground.
areas are the play structures.
Play structures.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
resilient material.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The surface is a little
Okay.
different.
Yep.
All right, so that shows you where the parking's gonna be. You can see that the queuing lines are gonna be much longer. I have to give kudos to Rob. He's been very instrumental in helping DRA answer questions, provide feedback. You know, his background's been invaluable to this whole site thing, making sure that widths and sizes and placements and everything.
Islands.
Rob's not too popular with a few people on the islands, but they're going to be beautiful. So, you know, and it's still ongoing. It is not done by any means, but the process, you know, as it's moving along right now, this is how it is. So, from this standpoint, from the outside area, do you have any other questions? All right, the next few pages show the layout of the actual building. As you know, the first floor has a kindergarten wing on the right. That's a one-story building.
Okay.
And on the left will be potentially first and second grade, and in the middle will be the main offices. When you move up to the second floor, above the main office, you'll have the library, media area, and then the classrooms will host the potential third and fourth grade.
Second and third, probably.
Second and third, right. And then
Nope,
the
nope,
next,
you're probably right.
no, I was at
Third
one,
and fourth.
two,
One, two,
three,
one, two,
four,
three, four,
and five and
six.
six
Right.
on
That's
the
right.
third floor.
Yep.
And that's the only thing that will be on the third floor.
Yep.
So one section of the building is gonna be 3 floors, the middle section is 2 floors, and the kindergarten area is 1. Okay? The first floor plan shows you that I'm gonna do a little show and tell, because I think it'll help you read the plans better. This teal blue will be the office layout. Behind that will be the music stage area. And then this orange color is the cafeteria. And then behind that is the gym. So the location of the cafeteria, the gym, is going to allow the school really easy access to the outside after hours. The whole building can be cut off. Every hallway can be locked up. Anytime the building is used by the public, they just will not have any access to any part of the building other than what they've been designated. There's restrooms between the gym and the cafeteria, handicap accessibility over there. It should be pretty easy to get into. Do you have any questions on any of that? And then there are a few pages that give you an example of what the classrooms will potentially look like.
And are these like typical classrooms?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes. The front of the building has some bump outs, and in the kindergarten area, there'll be some shelving in there. They can be used for little quiet play areas. They can be used for a reading point. All of the rooms are going to have these low bookcases, as you can see in this photograph underneath the windows. It'll be all open shelving for storage. Teachers will be able to see what's in there. Kids will be able to utilize them. Every classroom in the kindergarten wing will have its own toilet area. There'll be a picture further on that shows the cubbies that each classroom will have. Every classroom will have a sink. Every classroom in the building, is that correct? Has a sink.
That's correct.
Every classroom has a sink. Every classroom will have, I'm going to refer to this picture because it's a good one. Every teacher will have their own walk-in closet. Some will have 2. This is an example of what the sink area will look like, where there's a sink, there's storage above and below it. The room will be wired, obviously, for all the technology that the classrooms will need. There'll be one central location where the smart boards will be located.
Now, Ellie, will all the doors have those windows?
Yes, and for security purposes, all of the doors will be able to lock from the inside. The teacher will have a special key that she can use, and will have to keep, he or she will have and can lock the door in the case of an emergency.
And the windows are for what purpose next to the door?
Just so you can see into the room. They allow light in. Are you just curious, or?
And just think of safety, you know, when we talk so much about.
The way the room is designed, even though you can see into them, there will still be many areas within the room where you could be out of sight.
Uh-huh.
And I think maybe that's the question you might be leaning towards. So the vision is usually just
Probably ask
straight
Carl
in.
about that. Like
We
one-
did.
Okay.
You
one
would
did
either
ask
have-
that.
you would
Except
either
for
have
light.
those side lights, or you would have a piece of glass in the door, so that when you open that door, you're not bowling somebody over. So one way or the other, you'd want to be able to see someone approaching the classroom,
I see.
either through the side lights or through a vision
I
panel in the
see.
door.
Okay.
I think this look is definitely more modern
Then the single
than the
pane
single pane.
at
Um,
Pembroke right now.
I don't know,
I-
when I go into newer schools, I don't notice that they have the windows like that on the side.
And the
though.
side lights, right?
And, let's see, let me make sure I go in the same direction. The kindergarten layout, I showed you, each floor has different size classrooms that can be used for breakout rooms, for special education purposes. And then, you know, the rest of the diagrams really are just different views of the building as you access it. So this is what you would see as this particular diagram is what you would see when you're driving up. And then this is the actual front entrance. So the office would be behind there.
Yep.
This bay of windows is the library. Well, the lower ones are the office, above it would be the
I
library.
like that gable by the front door.
You like
Yes,
that?
I really like that a lot. Well, I like all the windows too.
Been
all
a
the
lot of
light.
discussion about the kind of roofs.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in
The
favor of at
library
least
media area is
Gable
gonna be
says
beautiful.
school.
This is the building you'll see as you approach the main office for the drop-off. So this is the 3-story, the
Okay.
2-story,
Oh, yep.
and then the
Okay,
one.
yes.
And you'll see the architect has used various elements to help bring the size of the building down, the bump outs. They work on colors and materials, just to change.
So the massing
things up.
isn't just
Yes,
this
it's not just a cinder block.
block, you're right?
Get your tapestries there too.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to that last
Your
page.
tapestries are hanging in there as well.
When you get to the pictures of the auditorium, you'll see they
A
have,
lot of care to make sure those are handled very appropriately.
Nice.
they hung the quilts. And
Oh,
since my children contributed to these quilts, they're very near and dear to me.
they are beautiful quilts, they certainly are.
And they're a part, and this is the cafetorium.
They're Pembroke
Vision,
history,
whatever
they're
They
Pembroke
are.
identity.
And, you know, the arts are very important. And that was a project that was done with an artist in Rockport. And I believe it took a couple of years.
Love it.
The setup on the cafetorium is interesting. They're using the elevation of the school so that an elevator or a lift won't be needed to put students on the stage, the platform. If you look right here,
Oh, there's a ramp
you
going.
can see there's a little bit of a ramp, and
Yeah.
all students will access the cafeteria by coming down that incline. But the top of the incline actually is where the stage
The access
is.
to the stage. Very nice.
Handicap.
Yes, it was just that was very well
Yes.
thought out.
And no need for any technology for stuff like that. It's just very simple.
Exactly. And it allows
Good point.
students to be more freely interact with everything that's going on. Do you have any questions on the building?
Just, I don't know if you've gotten to this stage yet, so, like, we have the renderings of what the outside is gonna look like. Do we know cost-wise if that's all achievable within
Yes, it
our
all is.
budget? Okay.
Yep.
I just
And
wasn't.
they've already started costing
All
that
right,
out.
okay, great.
Yep, that 40% includes everything.
Okay, all right, good.
Are we actually gonna have this little round architectural feature here in the classrooms?
That is a photograph of of school they
Another
have built.
school, yes.
So I think it depends on what ours look like. I need to
What was
find
that
out.
on the picture?
It's right over here. I really like it. I think it gives.
Oh, this,
character,
oh,
kind
yeah.
of- I think children would like it.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
that's
the
just
circle.
a view into the,
But it makes it adds
does,
character to
absolutely.
the room.
That particular photograph is a sample of a kindergarten classroom.
Yeah.
So,
I
and
like
those are the
having-
cubbies.
Nice having the cubbies in the
Yes.
classroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much standard today. You
Oh,
do-
is it
is,
really?
Yeah, for the younger grades, you do the cubbies right inside the classroom as opposed to the lockers
There'll be
outside.
lockers
Okay.
everywhere else.
Yeah.
Lockers
Because
in
right now at Pearlie, they're on the outside, or,
Pembroke, they're on the
Yeah.
outside.
They're on the inside. Pembroke, they're on.
I thought kindergarten. Ki-
On the outside.
They're on the outside, okay. Okay, that's what I remembered, okay.
And if you look at the floor, we're even looking at this type, the possibility of doing this type of patterning on the floor in the kindergarten area to make it cheerful and fun and
Right,
colorful.
right. Give it character.
Yes.
Very nice. I like that you have pictures of other
Schools.
model schools, that's nice.
Yeah.
Carol and I have been discussing that we would like to go take a ride to a
Right.
few of these schools so we can see the materials in person
Right.
and see how they're wearing.
I have vision issues, so it's nice to be able to kind of say, oh, you can do it this way.
Check out the shiny material.
I
know.
know, Rob, I'm still lobbying for shiny floors.
If you don't have any other questions, I think this would be a good opportunity for Pat to just run through the schedule of what we can expect, and also then maybe touch on the start of the
Sure.
middle high school.
As far as the schedule is concerned, we're right on target. We're all done with the MSBA board meetings. There are no more votes necessary at the MSBA board. We're all done with that aspect of it.
Okay.
But MSBA is just as concerned as everybody else to make sure we stay within the scope and the budget. The town has signed a scope and budget agreement with MSBA, and they take that very serious, and they want you to stay within the scope, and they want you to stay within the budget. And for that reason, there are, since the time we signed that scope and budget agreement, there are 3 other submissions that are made to MSBA to show that we're on target with the schedule, with the scope, and with the budget. We recently, as Ellie mentioned, we recently submitted the design development, and there's actually, anybody that wants to take a look at it, it's very substantial. There's a loose leaf book about 2 inches thick, along with the plans. They're all in Mike Farrell's office. So that's what's been submitted to MSBA, with estimates prepared by our estimator and estimates prepared by the architect's estimator, and then we're compelled to reconcile those and make sure they're within a certain tolerance. That's been submitted, and that design packet that is downstairs represents about 45% of the documents that have to be prepared to put this out to bid. MSBA requires that we submit a 60% complete set. That is scheduled to be submitted in May. In May, we'll submit the 60% set to MSBA. We've got to go through a whole series of estimates. The architect has to do estimates. There's a whole new packet prepared. And between now and then, the documents are advanced and also refined, and any other minor modifications can be made during that period of time. That gets submitted to MSBA, and each time we submit to MSBA, they come back with questions or comments. We just answered the questions and comments that they submitted to us back about 2 weeks ago, and those went back in, and they're, generally speaking, they're questions about, this may not be sufficiently complete, are you gonna pick that up in the 60%, and it goes back and forth. In June, we submit the 90% set. So in June, we have to submit a 90% set and go through the whole exercise again. Any other refinements that get picked up, estimates are done again. So again, this is all in keeping with assurances that the project is staying on budget and staying within the scope and is staying on schedule. The documents will be complete, and then it'll go out to bid early September, end of August, early September. And the next thing is, obviously, the numbers come in, and we'll know what the real numbers for the job is. And with the scrutiny that's being placed every step of the way, we anticipate we should be in good shape for all of it. So the schedule's in good shape, the budget's in good shape, all of the mechanics are in place to deliver everything on time. From a budget standpoint, as Ellie mentioned, I mean, we're right within a very narrow period of time with regard to the budget, with regard to the tolerance involved. So I mean, this particular submission was very well received by MSBA.
Good.
There were very few questions that they had, and we're moving right along in accordance with the schedule and with the budget.
So that's great news.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I had was, so there's a check and balance in there where we submitted to MSBA what we wanted this new project to look like, how many grades it would have in it, what type of other amenities it would have in it. So now that you're going through the process by submitting at different milestones, that precludes you from saying, you know what, glad we got the funding, we're cutting it down to a K-4 and we're going to add another basketball court or something like that.
Correct.
So that's a good check and balance. So
Yeah.
everyone at home should rest assured that what we submitted, what we told people we were going to develop, we are in fact developing to exactly
That's exactly right.
Right.
what we said, so
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're within budget at this point,
Yes.
at
Right.
40%.
Yeah. Correct. Correct.
Right.
And the day to break ground would be around
November,
November?
early November. Yeah. Yeah.
Of 2015.
Oh,
No, to break ground.
No,
break
ground.
ground. Break ground. I thought you meant completion.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
completion was
Yeah,
2015.
That's correct,
Right,
15.
right,
But right, that's
right.
right. Break ground is November, which is pretty
November is coming
It's
soon.
right around the corner.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah, they're saying school year 2015.
That's
That would be
correct.
when
Yeah.
we open
Starting
the
in
school,
September,
right,
that's
September,
right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know that's gonna be an exciting day.
Yeah, it sure will be.
Oh, yes, it will.
Oh, my goodness.
I may get recertified in elementary.
You have 2 years to do that.
Yeah, but I have 4 to retire, so.
Any questions on the Pembroke? I was going to just run through the middle high school.
Absolutely.
If you recall, MSBA, when they came up, because the sixth graders moving into the Pembroke, they're always very concerned about what are you going to do with the rooms that you're going to be vacating. And that led into a whole series of discussions with them. They came up and visited the school, and they really required, as part of the scope and budget agreement that was signed at the time, they required that we do the work that's necessary to do the capital improvements to accommodate the new areas and do some other repairs into the school. And that was all approved as a separate warrant, and it's actually all tied together with MSB. So this project is moving along in conjunction with that particular directive. It's being done as a completely separate project by MSBA and a separate warrant by the town. The interesting thing is that the MSBA actually invited the project in because there was a question about what will they reimburse and will they reimburse, and well, actually MSBA was very gracious because they said, come on into the reimbursement program. So the whole project has been pulled in as a separate project with a reimbursement that's 50.9%. So again, like I said, it eliminates any questions about will they reimburse it. So they're going to be reimbursing 50% of the things that MSBA normally reimburses. We all know that there are certain things that they don't reimburse, but the majority of the project will be reimbursed by MSBA.
Can I just say one thing? And I don't mean to cut you off, but I think it's important that everyone knows that that was a fast track compared to what it took us to get into the MSBA pipeline for Pembroke. We had to go through we had a lengthy application
Yeah, I think our
process.
statement of interest, I think, went in 08.
Yes.
Oh, 08.
less.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so, I mean, we were
For
very
Pembroke.
lucky.
The first one was 06, I believe. The first one was 06. It was
The one that, when I
denied,
came
and then
in
we
07,
did.
it was on hold.
Yep,
Right.
so,
Right.
And we didn't even write a statement of interest for this project.
right.
They
Right.
said to us,
Right.
you need to do this,
Yeah.
come and do it.
right, so, I mean, we
That's
should be
huge.
thankful that
Right,
we've been afforded the opportunity
yes.
to get there quickly.
And when we submitted in July, when we submitted, because they wanted to see exactly what the game plan was for the middle high school, they've actually considered that to be part of the feasibility study that you would normally submit after you've been invited in, after you were approved at the board, after you went through the whole process, after you went through a whole selection of architects and OPMs. So you've actually picked up a couple of years of what it boils down to.
Right, that's
so-
what I thought everyone.
Exactly, so you didn't have to go through an
Recognize and
eligibility period, they took
appreciate.
that all in at the same time. So they were really very cooperative in making sure that you address those areas that had to be addressed. And with that, there's been a feasibility study that's been executed with the MSBA. That's all set, all signed, sealed, and delivered. They've already authorized the contracts to be signed with the OPM and with ourselves and with DRA. So we're underway. We actually are working on the arrangements, and we had a kickoff meeting with them this week, and we went through a whole agenda with them to go through the issues. And basically, what it boils down to is that there are 2 board meetings required by MSBA, because there's always a feasibility study, preferred alternative board vote, and then there's a schematic board vote where they fix the dollars and we fix the cost of the job and the scope, and then that's the last vote that they would have, and then it would go to town meeting next May. But right now, we are looking to submit the feasibility study on the 8th of August for their board meeting on October the 2nd. And what's going to happen in the interim period now is there'll be meetings now with DRA and administration to go through exactly what's going to happen. They're going to take what we did already for the submission that occurred last summer, and that now is going to be looked at, and it'll be dissected. The existing conditions will be looked at, again, in keeping with what was originally laid out from a capital improvement standpoint and from a repair standpoint. And they'll be in contact very shortly with setting up meetings with Carol and the staff, and obviously we'll be briefing the building committees as we go forward. That'll actually, once that gets approved by the board, from a feasibility standpoint, then it'll be refined and it'll get prepared, and then in February of 14, it'll be submitted, the schematic design, complete with all of the actual hard costs and everything else, and schedules, will be submitted to the board, and they will hear that in April. And they will vote on it in April, but we will have submitted it by February, so the numbers and everything else will be ready for town meeting. It's just that the board will act on in April. We'll have a board vote in April. We'll have the numbers in February so that the town has them available for discussion and dissemination to the public, and then that'll go to town meeting for authorization. And at that point, we'll get into the same level we're into at this point. We'll be going through the design development, we'll be going through the 60, through the 90, and obviously be looking to get the construction done during any period of time that we can squeeze some of the work in, depending on what we're going to be doing. Some of it might be done during the summer months. Some of the work might be done during the course of vacation periods. So it depends on where we go with the level of work that's got to be done. Most of which has been laid out, but again, it's all subject to looking at the scope and what the structure is going to need to accommodate the reconfiguration of the classrooms.
And really identifying the costs.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Of course.
think.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Because, Carl had some original estimates, like just projected costs.
Yeah.
But,
These are projected
nothing that
costs,
was
yeah.
really nailed down.
Yeah.
And this process is gonna really nail it down.
So the middle high school schedule is in good shape as well. Yeah.
Right.
There's a good action plan, and
A
it's.
lot of work.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be
It's
done.
very encouraging for the
Yeah.
education in Georgetown.
It is.
When is it supposed to be done? The completion?
Right now, the target is to obviously have the rooms that are gonna be vacated. You'd like to have those done by September of 15, because again, you're gonna be accommodating, the new
Oh, I see what you're
configuration of
saying.
students. You wanna have that ready so that when you move the students out, you're gonna be doing a lot of work probably that summer to make the accommodations to take care of the new enrollment in the middle high school.
Now, would there be any change in like the schedule for the students? You know, I know some districts have done that where they actually change the school day to accommodate like the
the-
construction or the workers,
Oh,
you know?
I don't think we've been thinking that
We
we're
haven't,
gonna need to change that
on all
because
honesty, we haven't really gone that deeply.
Yeah,
Because
we
the
haven't been
original
talking about that.
packet that was submitted was generally speaking, just a broad brush as to what was gonna happen.
Right.
It's pretty well detailed, considering it was supposed to be just a broad brush. It was a lot more detailed than that. If you look at the packet that was submitted, it's pretty extensive.
Yeah,
So it's a good starting
we'll
point.
have to look at that,
It's a
though.
good
We
starting
will.
point. But
And-
those are all things that'll be looked
So
at.
could you remind me again when the money would be appropriated potentially from the town? Start.
Next May.
May of 14.
Yeah,
May
year
of
from
14.
now.
Yeah.
So that's a year
A year from now.
no, what I'm trying to wonder is, because this would need to be sort of phased. There'd
Correct.
probably be some elements of the project that could start right away.
Right.
As soon as the money, or
Right.
through the summer.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, we'd have to strategically look at the kinds of things we would do while the students were there.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So yes, there will be some real thinking that has to happen.
Yes.
when that
Yeah.
happens.
They're all done. I have a
Question? Yep.
Did you all want to talk about the planning board vote that we took, just as an important vote to fill the committee in on that, or I'll just share with you
Go ahead.
my take on it.
Okay.
Basically, I think there was a very, as the rep on the committee, there was a very important vote to go in front of planning board or not for site plan review. And that vote was taken on March 12th, and it was a 5-3 vote in favor of going to the planning board for review. And then, and correct me if I've got anything wrong, and then there was, due to a potential open meeting law violation in the first vote, there was a second meeting rescheduled and the revote was taken. And that time, it was 5-4 against going to the planning board with one abstain. And I think that, and I strongly disagreed with that, but what I fully support the vote today of where it's at, and I think what is going to happen to try to achieve some of the goals of going to the planning board, not going to the planning board, is that there's a number of people who are going to start identifying some important tasks to get a second set of eyes reviewing the project on, which is what the planning board is about in many ways. So it was an important vote, and I just wanted to share that with the committee.
You explained that very well. And I think it's also important to note that it was always the intent of the building committee to go informally before the planning board. The state doesn't require us to do that. However, the state does require that we go before the Conservation Commission. And the Conservation Commission and the planning board do use the same engineer. And that was the procedure that we would use. And as Rob is saying, you know, if we need to expand any of the studies that the engineer does, then we will. Well, you know, we're going to do what we need to do to make sure that things are done correctly.
And I think it's, I mean, and this is just the way that I'm seeing it. I have no idea if this is true. Or I believe it is true, but it seems like there's a lot of oversight and scrutiny going on at the MSBA level and throughout the process with the architects and the OPM, so that a lot of, I'm not saying the planning board shouldn't look at it and doesn't have the ability to look at it, but it is getting the level of scrutiny that it requires.
And I also think it's important to understand the vote was to not file an official site application. The vote was not to not go to the planning board. And there is, you know, that is very different. So, yes, by going to the Conservation Commission, by informally going before the planning board, we are asking for them to also review the work that the engineers that we have hired as a town. We've hired DRA to hire engineers, and it's just to double check the work that they do. And that's basically what this engineer will do.
And just to, I think, clarify a little bit on what Ann was saying, the second set of eyes for the site plan portion, the site engineering portion, that is what I think we're going to be looking at in this list. That is what the planning board would have done. And in this list, we're looking to address those issues that way. So that would be the second set of eye review of that part of the process.
Great.
All right.
So I just want to thank everyone, because I've just felt very fortunate to be working with this incredible group. The board, the building committee is selfless. I've been so happy. You know, people, even Rob just said it, you know, he may not have supported the vote, but, you know, is wholeheartedly working. And I have just found that every step of the way with everyone on the committee, that people are just really stepping up because they feel it's the right thing to do for the town and for the school. And that makes what we do, I think, really worthwhile.
Well, and thank you for all of your efforts for the,
Heading this.
I believe, the decade of work that's
It
gone
has
into
now
this.
been a decade, that is correct. That is correct. And I
And
deserve
without-
to retire when it's done.
And she will have no children that will be attending the
No,
school.
my children are
That's right.
juniors in college.
Really out of the goodness of your heart, so
Yeah.
thank you.
So thank you.
But everybody, it's a lot of time and a lot of
lot of
effort,
people,
and
a
it's
lot
for
of
the right
Thank you for
reason.
recognizing that.
And all
Pat,
of you
thank you.
also.
Thank you. Thank you for the honor of working with you.
Any other questions for us?
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Bye.
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 All right, moving right along, the school calendar.
Well,
Or actually, do you wanna move Chris?
I'm wondering if we can move Chris up.
Do you guys mind if we move?
No,
Committee mind if we do a little flip flop and we move Chris for the winter sports report?
That would be great. A lot of the budget and finance, I think it was a budget and finance group, at our subcommittee meetings when we were talking to Chris about athletic fees and, future of sports and all the other topics we were trying to cover in that meeting. I think the suggestion was made that, wouldn't it be great if Chris, as the athletic director, at the end of every season, could maybe come before the committee and let us, an update on the season, the seasons before. So right away, Chris said, sure, I'll be happy to do it, and then I think 2 days later, he said, here's my report. So I really appreciate that. That's one of Chris's strengths. He's a very organized person, and he does what he does. He exceeds the expectations. But anyway, this is Chris's first report, and he's gonna just review with you some things about the winter sports season,
Absolutely.
right?
And a little preview for the spring.
And a preview for the spring.
So we had some pretty good accomplishments in the winter. Our girls basketball team qualified for the state tournament, and they won an opening round game. They lost to Whittier in the second round, who actually ended up in the North final. So they lost to a
Great
pretty good team.
accomplishment.
Cheering won the Division IV North title, which is really impressive. They also finished fourth in the state at their level. So
that's fantastic.
yeah, really good job with cheering. Our boys basketball team had an all-league player, Patrick Bjork. They also had an all-star player in Matt Gott. Girls basketball had two all-league players, Kristen Hogan, who we also did the final tally on, finished her career with 1,196 points.
Wow.
Oh,
Her name's going to go up on our 1,000-point banner very soon.
great. That's terrific.
And Marissa Aganis was also an all-league player. We also had an all-star in Allie Newberry, so that was pretty good for them. Wrestling had multiple wrestlers with strong showings at Cal's, and many of them moved on to states. And we actually have a co-op program with Ipswich, so some of the kids were from Ipswich, some of the kids were from Georgetown. One of the Georgetown wrestlers had his 100th career win this year, David Ingraham. So that's a pretty big accomplishment.
It's a huge
That's
accomplishment.
fantastic.
About 5 or 6 other wrestlers in our history that have made that. So
Is he a senior this
he's a
year?
senior, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then our JV boys basketball coach, Barry Spears, who has been with us for 8 years, announced his retirement. He actually won the Cape Ann League Assistant Coach of the Year award this year as well.
Wow.
So he was really recognized for his years of service and really helping out. So we're going to miss him.
Yes.
For a high school with 100 students per class, roughly, or 400, a little over 400 in the high school, it's impressive.
He really is, yeah.
It's a lot of teams that are represented. It's nice to see.
Yeah, and our although they're not officially co-ops anymore, our Ipswich track and field, both boys and girls. So our athletes who ran for them the year before were grandfathered in, and so the ones that went out for the team, they actually won the boys and girls Cape Ann League. So we had some Georgetown athletes represented there as well, and we are actively looking for a co-op. So I know.
A track co-op.
Yeah, it's tough
Yeah.
to find a school that has a facility.
And not enough
and also
students.
doesn't have enough students to field a team. So
When I look at wrestling, with 6 Georgetown and 11 Ipswich, what's the number that when they get to, we kind of go away?
I think it's, well, I wouldn't say go away,
Well,
but
when it can no longer be considered a co-op because they're going to cut because there's enough
Like
people.
track, like-
Yeah, exactly. Like,
wrestling, I think if you were in the 30s,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Wrestling has
Okay.
a ways to go.
yeah, because there's all these different weight classes and there's a lot of opportunities for kids. So I'm not worried about it going that way. I'm actually worried about it going the other way.
Okay.
That our numbers are going down in wrestling.
They are. Okay.
And then we had the Pentucket ice hockey team on
Yes.
co-op.
And there's still
And there's a lot of Georgetown players in that.
Yep.
That was very successful, both varsity and junior varsity.
Absolutely, and there's still a viable team. Our girls hockey team with Masconomet qualified for the state tournament. So
Fantastic.
yeah,
There's a great write-up in the paper about one of the players.
yeah, Katie Turbo.
Pearl, I
Katie
saw
Tobin.
that, yes.
Oh, yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great that those kids have an opportunity to play. Although we're not the host school, they still
But we provide a lot of their players.
absolutely.
Which is good, that makes me feel
why they
good.
do
And
a
I just, I
co-op.
went to the
Yeah.
banquet, actually, the ice hockey, co-op had a banquet on Monday night, and it sounded like they were ready to welcome us in for a long time to come, so
Absolutely.
that
And I
made me
heard
happy.
two of
'Cause
our
full
players are
disclosure,
captains.
Yeah, my
coming.
son is on the junior varsity,
Yeah.
was on this year, so, Jeff, yeah.
So it was great. Participation numbers, pretty good. Cheering, it was 24, although we did have to dip into the 8th grade to get a competition team. Once we did that, our numbers went way up. So I think we had 8 8th graders who came out. But, we'd prefer not to do that if we don't have
Right.
to. So 24
But
is a
that's
good
why
number.
we do that. I mean, that's,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's why the
So-
waiver exists.
That's why, yeah, that's why,
Yeah.
I was looking for the word.
Wrestling, 17. We only had one 8th grader. Ipswich can't send 8th graders the way the waiver rule works.
Okay.
So it can only be Georgetown kids. So we had one that was there. And as you can see, though, the numbers are 6 and 11. So we're really hoping those numbers go up. Because it's a fun program. If you've ever been to a match, it's really one of the best experiences of high school sports.
It's the craziest thing.
They love being at Pearlie for the matches because you can stand up on that mezzanine,
Yeah.
mezzanine, and
Look
it's
down.
loud there. They really.
I say crazy in that I'm used to being able to, follow a score, and you can see, you
have to watch the.
and you really have to pay attention, otherwise it's over before you realize it started.
Times.
It was great. Our cheerleaders came to 2 of our home matches and cheered the boys on. So that was a really neat touch.
That's awesome.
Oh, great.
Great.
Girls basketball, we only ran 3 levels this year. We didn't have enough girls for a freshman team. So we had 43 amongst the 3. So we're hoping those numbers go up a little bit and we can get a freshman team next year. And the boys, we had 50, which was a good number, able to support 4 levels. Again, we're just hoping that sustains itself. So we had 124 winter athletes, which is about average, looking at years past.
Okay.
So we're doing all right. There's a rundown of the records. You can feel free to look at that. On the next page, some concerns. One is obviously the co-op. Our winter and spring tracks, the MIA is not allowing us to re-up because the Ipswich numbers are good, which is great for them. I mean, it's the point of a co-op is to build your program, but the other team sometimes loses out on that. So we are actively looking for other teams that might be able to take us in. It's a challenge. There's not a lot out there. I can't name the school, but I can tell you a school about 40 minutes away told us, oh yeah, we'd love you, and that doesn't work. So geography is an issue.
How many kids do we have for track?
We had in winter track last year we had 3,
Wow.
and in outdoor we had 10. So it's not like we have huge numbers
Yeah.
that we could start our own team. We were just not at that
Yeah.
level.
Yeah,
Remember,
we're-
we're nestled amongst all these big regionals who have
Right.
enough kids for their teams. It's rare that in our immediate proximity that we're going to find a small school that doesn't have enough.
And we're a small high school.
We are.
We are small.
Chris, I bet if you had a track, if you had a facility, you would have a lot more people on the team.
Well, the other concern though is that we don't want to kill our other
I
programs.
was going to say, but
I agree, but also maybe let.
But I think a
let
track,
people-
if
let
we had a
people-
track, that would be all for it.
Yeah.
Sounds very true.
And even, worst case, we have our middle school track program running right now, which is very successful.
Yeah.
And,
it's always
but,
They run in the
crazy
parking lot.
successful.
I
but
mean,
yeah,
they-
but we can't run it. We can't have a home meet.
Right,
really don't
but
have any
you're right, we
facility.
can't have a home meet.
So again, our winter track co-op and spring track co-op, losing those it's going to sting a little bit, and we're looking and we're trying. Our freshman basketball numbers were low on both genders. All of our freshman girls moved up to JV or varsity. Our boys, I think we had 9 or 10 on the team. So it's one of those things where the strongest freshmen do end up moving up, and with us not being able to use the 8th graders anymore, that's how we usually used to fill our teams. So.
Right.
So it's a difference. Wrestling we mentioned before, and then cheering, again, trying to build that up a little bit. One of the big things that I've learned from cheering is that with the competitions, the tumbling is a really big factor. So a lot of the kids who might be into gymnastics should really be encouraged to go out for cheering because the competition, there's a lot of gymnastics involved. And I don't know if everyone realizes how athletic they are and how competitive it is.
Yes.
So
Did you see Revere?
I didn't.
National champs.
Oh, were they?
Wow.
I didn't realize that. Cheer. Wow.
It's amazing.
My
Yeah.
daughter will be thrilled. National champ. It's quite impressive.
It's a huge.
So we're looking at our revenue, pretty good shape. We made about $35,000 in user fees. We're still have a little bit outstanding, and that is an obligation that a student, if they don't pay their user fees, they can't go to frolic or prom or graduate. So those eventually come in. Sometimes we have to chase people down a little bit. And then our gates in the fall we have.
Is that about 10 kids? I mean, when you look at it, how?
Yeah, it's usually 90. I'd say 90% of the time, it's someone who started the user. We do a payment plan where
Yes.
they
Yeah,
break it
yeah,
into three.
yeah,
They miss their second,
Oh, okay,
or they miss
okay.
their third.
Okay.
Our gates, we have 3 sports to charge gates: football in the fall, and then boys and girls basketball. And if we average $5,000 between, per sport, that's what we want to do. And we're at 9,600, so we're right there. Yeah, so we did pretty well there. So about $48,000 once those fees are collected for the winter, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that is good.
And then I have a little spring sports preview just to
Yeah.
know what's going on. So we started tryouts amidst some snow, and we had to be really flexible in the gym, having indoor practices. We utilized some of the hallways for running, and it's not ideal, but we got through. Our numbers are up in almost every sport, which is great. Yeah, we're finally getting outside. We don't have the official rosters yet, so I can't tell you the exact numbers, but we'll know pretty soon. And we've got some really exciting teams. Baseball, defending state champions. Coach Spur would not say he's a defending state champion. Say we're just another team trying to win a championship. So he's really excited, and those kids are really, looking forward to a great run. Softball, they were able to get out and have a scrimmage today at Pingree. I haven't got the results of that yet, but they have a really good senior core, but they also have a lot of really solid younger kids. So it's looking bright for softball. Their numbers are up a little bit from last year, so they're moving in the right direction. Boys lacrosse, they're looking to make the state tournament as always. Last year they were the MIA Sportsmanship Award winner too at their division, which is a pretty big deal. So that was kind of neat, and we hope they maintain that.
Can you just tell a little bit more about the sportsman award?
Absolutely. So at the league level, every league nominates one team for great sportsmanship, and we were able to win that last year. And then all of those teams, all the leagues together, those teams are nominated, and our school actually won.
Very cool.
Wow.
So it's a pretty big honor. Coach Bopel was also our coach of the year in lacrosse last year in the Cape Ann League, so he got his award at a pretty recent
That
ceremony.
says a lot.
Yeah, definitely, he's doing a great job. And then our girls lacrosse, after many, many years, Coach Hartford has retired, and we
No
have
chance of getting her to come
No,
back.
she's
maybe.
moved.
we have a great,
Too
great,
far
great
away.
new coach.
I saw that in the paper.
Yeah, so Bridget Lane, formerly of Masconomet in Andover. So she had been a JV coach and an assistant varsity coach. She played at Fairfield College in Connecticut. And she is so into it. The kids really seem to love her. And I think the program's going in the right direction. So.
Heather built that program. I'm so
Oh,
happy.
yeah.
She was so worried that she really getting a great coach, and she's just going to be so happy.
Yeah, and some Maureen Cannon's still helping out.
She'll be
John
so
Pingree's
happy.
helping out.
So happy for her.
And we have a new JV coach too, a teacher in the school, Courtney Arrigo. So there's a nice connection to the school. So yeah, so there's a little bit of old, a little bit of new, and I think they're gonna have a very good season. And then middle school track gets up and going on Monday, so they'll be able to run outside, I hope.
Yes.
Great.
Just a couple questions.
Sure.
So baseball, you have the you're able to field 2 teams?
Varsity and JV, absolutely.
Right, okay. So what about softball?
We were able to.
You were able to do both?
Yeah, we have 24 girls.
Okay, perfect.
Which last year we actually had, I believe, 20. So
Yeah,
we're
it
up
was-
a
I
little
remember
bit. And
last
we had two teams with 20, and there were a couple games where we couldn't field the JV team.
Okay,
Injuries or a girl gets called up.
okay.
So the numbers are going in the right direction there.
And then what about lacrosse? Do you do a JV and a varsity?
We do, yeah. And the
Boys
numbers,
and girls?
Yep, the numbers are good. We do utilize the 8th grade waiver because
Okay.
we'd be right on the brink of not being able to have a JV team.
Okay.
When you add in the 8th graders, we're at 18, so which is
Okay.
right where you want to be.
Great.
Yeah. So things are going in the right direction.
Great to hear.
Thank you, Chris. That
Thank
was
you.
very
I love
helpful.
your organization.
Oh, thanks.
And so we're predicting like a few tournament runs through here. Do you have this?
we like banners.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we still have a little room left. Thank you, Chris.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for your patience.
Good luck. All right. School calendar?
Okay, so in your packet, I give you some information in your orange notes and a copy of the draft calendar. You've already approved the starting day of
Yep.
school next year being after Labor Day, so we don't need to revisit that. Hopefully, we're gonna have a little easier winter next year, so we're not in the situation we're in this year, which is being in school till the 26th. But
Because what do we have? 7
cannot
school days
control
this year?
Mother Nature, unfortunately.
How many school snow days?
Six snow days.
5?
5 snow days.
Okay.
But remember, the governor called 2. There were 2 emergencies
Yeah.
that the governor had called too, so that's
Yeah,
part
we
of
had
why.
the hurricane.
Yeah,
Yep.
we had the hurricane. So anyway, so starting after Labor Day, I just what I call, usually this is a very traditional kind of calendar that we have. We include here, obviously, parent-teacher conferences, full day in-service days, and this year, the addition, and I think I talked about this briefly, that we were going to come back to you and have this conversation. It may not yield a vote tonight, but I would like to suggest we do try to reach an agreement on the April 11th meeting, only because it does, if it's approved as presented, it does have some impacts to some families, and I want to give them as much time as possible to make arrangements. So going through the sort of the highlights, I think, is what's important. Is we would like your input into this. We looked at the month of December, where Christmas falls this year, is in the middle of the week. So our recommendation is that we attend, that school is in session for a half a day on the 23rd. It counts as a school day. The students leave half day, and that's a professional development day for the teachers in the afternoon. That would mean that the students would leave at 12, and then they'd be off. And if you go to New Year's, generally speaking, you would expect to see kids come the day after New Year's for the week. But given the fact that it's, you know, middle of the week and kids would only be there for two days, plus, you know, really Christmas Eve comes pretty close after that. If we're leaving on the 23rd half day, we thought that the families might appreciate having the opportunity to have those 2 days as part of the vacation. So then students would return in January on the 6th.
2 weeks.
It ends up being 2
Yeah.
weeks, yeah.
And why, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
why have the students go to school at all on the 23rd?
Well, we were trying to count, but we had that conversation, and that's certainly something we can revisit. Originally, it was not, there was nothing on that day. But when we started to look at, because we're going after Labor Day, and we started looking at the day we would get out,
I'm
and then the
thinking
possibility of
that
snow days.
We do a class party, right? All the classes, at
Mhm.
least the lower grades.
Yep,
They're going to have that either on the 20th or on the 23rd.
right,
The kids, in terms of their attention span at school,
right. Well, that's why it would be a half a day, right? I
they're not going to
then-
learn
yeah.
anything that
I would argue going to school on the 2nd and 3rd and take the 23rd off. But I mean,
I just, and I think
Why
anity who's going to go
I'm
away.
not
Yeah,
a- I'm
they're
not a
they're
fan
not
of the
gonna
second
wait
and
for
third.
that
They're not
half
gonna
day.
wait
It
for
depends
That's what I
on
was
where
just
it
gonna
falls,
say.
Rob.
it's
It depends on where it
we're,
falls,
We're
really.
in like the perfect nightmare.
Yeah,
having-
it's like it's
Having them
perfect.
in the middle of 2 weeks. That's
But
What do you mean it depends on where it falls?
well, if it's in the middle, if it was a Monday, then you make different choices.
Yeah.
You know,
It depends,
The closer
yeah.
it gets to the mid to the end of the week, then it becomes a little more difficult to say, really, are you going to? We have this conversation when I remember this vividly. This conversation when we talked about when kids start school, and we were adamant at the committee level that they shouldn't come for 2 days. That was kind of a waste of time. Why
Right.
would we do that? So that's part of, we did think about that when we had our conversation. Of course, new committee, maybe a new feeling on that. But, you figure that when the students come back, I mean, they're there for 2 days. I mean, some families might appreciate the fact if they're traveling that they would know that they had the rest of that week.
Or they're all at home right now throwing things at the TV.
Well, that's
going,
okay.
2
That's why-
weeks. What are they talking about?
Well, usually usually it's 10 days. It
Well, I know the
usually
year
is.
before last was long, and
Huh?
it wasn't 2 weeks, but people thought it was long.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
When you say 2 weeks, do you mean in 10 days? That's one and the same, right?
Well, you count we're
Yeah.
counting
5
the
school
the
days.
weekends. We're counting the weekends when we do, but generally it's 10 to 11 days.
Yeah, I mean, it's not precisely, but roundly when you
Yep.
look at it, it's 2
Yep.
weeks.
But again, from our perspective, we just thought that it made sense, a little better, academic sense to not have the kids coming back. But, again, that's why we're having this conversation, right?
I'm just so
Cole, did
worried
you
about
have
the
something to
summer
add to
days.
that?
Well, yeah,
Yes.
just from the student perspective, I know, like, from my own experience and just, like, observing other students, they kind of clock out by that last week before. And so having a half day, either families who want to go away, they're not going to wait. They're not going to wait
Yeah, they
for
won't
that
send 'em.
half day to end, or, like, to go away. They'd probably go away on that Friday or something and go 2 weeks somewhere, which is, I mean, fine. But that's why I think attendance would be very low on that half day. Even just kids being like, I don't want to go to school today. We have vacation for 2 weeks. I know that's definitely a possibility of
And to
happening.
Alana's point, it's probably like, oh, well, that's fine because it's going to be, wrap up the term or have a final.
Right. I mean, again, I can't speak to the middle and high school, but if I was going to go away and I saw this school calendar, I would, and in past other years, if you're traveling, you often end up traveling on the 24th, which is
yeah,
the
right.
worst day of the
Yep,
year to
yep,
fly
yep,
anywhere.
yep.
Except
I
for
would
the day
think
before Thanksgiving. But
I could fly on the 20th.
Right.
It's just a half day on the
Yeah.
23rd.
Right.
No, I totally understand.
I don't
that,
think
and
there's
I don't think
easy-
we have administration has a really strong. I mean, we can have that be a half day. I mean, a day off. I think the part of the other thing that we were trying to weigh also is we have this additional 6 hours,
Right.
and we were going to use that as one of the days. So I mean, again, that's not a
January
major
2nd.
factor. We can work around that, but that was a factor when we were thinking about it. Is that would allow us that afternoon. But again, our
my-
staff
my
would prefer to have the
thinking-
day off. I
Yeah,
completely
my
understand.
thinking is to have the 23rd be part of the vacation and have the kids come back on the 2nd. And then you pick up 2 days there, right? You have the 2nd and the 3rd could be school days.
Yeah, sure.
And
They could be that, but again, I'm just sharing with you what our thoughts were on that.
Yeah.
On why the 2nd and 3rd were, we didn't see it as being, it was gonna be all that, as much as productive, and our thought was that families might appreciate having that extra time. You're telling me
Right.
that you
well,
don't
it's
think
gonna
so.
probably gonna
Well,
be told, I bet, if we did a poll, half the families would
Right.
prefer the 23rd off and half of them
Well,
want the
yeah,
2nd.
that's what, you
And then
never,
it's gonna-
the calendar
you
is
can't
not
tell.
something that 100% of
Right.
Right.
anybody's gonna love.
A lot of people who are
No.
gonna travel with if they have young kids, they're gonna wanna stay home for Christmas, so they would appreciate the next week to travel. I mean, it's,
I mean, I think you can go either way.
Either
on
way,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
a question for you guys. Since there are professional development days, a certain number that you need,
Yes.
would you be able to move one of them to either the 2nd or the 3rd to make up for lost time?
We did have that conversation as well. But then you'd only have the children, yeah, I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking, Cole. Would the kids still come back on the 2nd and the 3rd, or
No,
you're
see,
saying
it's
use
just-
one of them as a PD day?
Yeah, and then take one of the ones, say, in a later or earlier month out, so you have that day.
Yes,
So you
we,
s-
Right.
we could do that.
Yeah.
And,
I'm not
and have the
suggesting this,
students.
but you have one on October 15th, so and I'm not saying, I'm just as an example.
Yeah.
You'd say cut the 15th
Right.
out.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
take the
Yeah.
October
I-
15th
I'm
because
not-
of the nature of what I know we're gonna do, but I hear what you're saying is make a switch. We could
Just if
consider
you're worried,
that.
Excuse me.
because since you're starting after Labor Day, and since you never know what you're going to get for winter,
Right.
you want to make sure that you have enough days at the end to make sure that, like, say
not
you get
going
5
into
snow days, you're not going into July, kind of thing. So
We can't go into
Right,
July.
we can't.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like the committee would like us to consider not having school on the 23rd, having that be a no school day.
Questions?
Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm more the second and third that they should go back to school.
Okay.
Well, I hear that, but I'm wondering about the 23rd.
23rd.
Yeah, the 23rd, I think should be no school.
I would tend to side that one.
Okay.
I like it just the way you presented it.
Okay, but I think you're in the minority here, Pam.
That's fine.
From what I can tell.
Yeah, and I like the idea of taking the January 21st Professional Development Day and moving it up to January 2nd or 3rd, simply because after you've had this long vacation with your kids home, who wants a 4-day weekend 2 weeks later? And we already have a 3-day
Yeah,
weekend.
I see that. Good point.
And then I'm sure there's families perhaps who love the snow and see that as an opportunity to go away skiing for a long weekend. But that's my thought, is we've just had this long break and now I have to have another 4-day weekend.
You know what? You bring up a good point because you have the 21st, then you have then 2 weeks later you have a half day
in the middle of the week.
PD, and then you're on vacation.
I know this year it felt like every other week was a short week. There was a period of time where it just felt like my daughter was not going to school and it was all around that Christmas break, and her school stamina is what I felt like just fell off.
Right.
You know, because she didn't have for a long time 5-day weeks, and then when there was one, I could see by Friday she was done. She was just like, I gotta go to school today.
I mean, I'm sure the parents would like that. I'm not sure the staff would be all that excited if there's not going to be students, to have them come in for one day at the end of a vacation.
Right.
You know, that's probably not going to be popular, but
Sorry.
I understand I guess the point is whatever we do. I mean, we can figure out the PD day.
Right.
Okay. But the question is whether or not there are no school days. I guess that's the question. Are January and 3rd no school days for students?
Second and third.
Second and third, sorry. Second and third.
I would like it to be school days personally.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Thoughts?
This is one of the lovely jobs that the school committee gets to make decisions on. Is
I have to say, I don't feel
we're making
strongly.
recommendations.
I'm not.
I don't feel strongly. I feel more strongly about not having school on the 23rd than I do about whether they go to school on the 2nd and 3rd.
I have to agree with that. I think the 2nd and 3rd are really not an issue for me, but going back for a half a day, the day before a holiday for
We don't disagree with that.
that.
I'll be Christmas shopping that day because I'm not an early shopper. I've been out on Christmas Eve day, so okay. So just getting. I mean, again, we don't have to vote on this tonight. People can think about it, but I'm just trying to get a little bit of a consensus on. So if there's other information that.
So second and third. So was the 2nd and 3rd? Do people have strong feelings?
I really don't.
No, Rob.
Say if I did, but
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll
So
leave it
why
as
don't
it
we-
is for
yeah.
right now, and then we can revisit.
Yeah.
that.
Why don't we revisit
Okay.
that for the next
All
one?
right.
I was just gonna say, coming from students, they're always gonna want extra days off. So I mean, don't.
Don't go by the students.
Don't worry.
Well,
don't
I'm
worry.
just. I just.
We're not going to
I
ask
know-
you to pull your
they
friends.
also they also want to be let out of school in June as early as
Exactly.
possible.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
so-
it's 180
That's important to the
days.
kids. Let me
Yeah.
just say that.
That is
But
really
not
important.
then it's not.
No,
But now all of a sudden,
Right.
it is.
I know
Exactly.
that everybody wants a snow day until they realize in June,
Yeah.
and then
They're gonna have
this
to
Until
do
time
it's
of year, people are
85
like,
and we're sending them off to
please do
school.
not call a snow day,
Yeah.
no matter what, you know, because everybody knows what it means.
About June, right.
Okay, so then the next thing that I would mention is, we have had ongoing discussions with the teachers' union as part of their negotiations, that we want to have additional time. And they have agreed to an additional 6 hours. So that can look like one full day, or it can look like, a distribution of time over a period. So again, looking at all the options that we might have and looking at all of the initiatives that we know that we've got coming up, and I list some of them in your orange notes. The thinking is that if we were to, throughout the year, the first few professional development days, and that's why I was talking about what I mentioned, Dan, about the 15th, where we really need to do work with teacher evaluation and making sure we get teachers all trained and SMART goals and all the things that they need to do to be able to kick off that process. We feel like we need to front load that in our September and October time. So after that, however, we do need time to be able to do this other work. So our thinking was, if we were to strategically select some half days throughout the year, and we were to notify parents and enough in advance that what we could do is we could do an early release for students, but then the professional development would be for that 3 hours, but then in addition to that, the teachers would work an additional hour as the 6 hours that they've said they're willing to put on the table. So what it would do is it would take us from the 3 full days, which is about 18 hours of professional development, to another 24 hours of additional time. And it would be to work on, developing those written curriculum. It would be to work on these vertical task forces. It would be to, have teachers working on, some things related to their evaluation. I'm not saying we would go with this kind of a system every year, but for this coming year, it really does seem like something we should try. Because there really is a lot of work that needs to be done. And we don't have the money, by the way, to pay teachers to work, hours on the vacations and all that kind of thing. So it really does, and a lot of the work we're talking about has to be done by the teachers. And they already give time after school for meetings and other things. This is work that requires like a sustained amount of time to be working on it. Like if you're sitting and you're developing units in Atlas, you can't just sit down for 20 minutes, work on it, get up, do something. You have to have sustained amount of time. So given that work, we're making the recommendation that throughout the year, we add these half-day sessions.
And does half day feel like a sufficient amount of sustained attention for those kinds of tasks?
If we look at it as 4 hours, it does.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, if we look at it as 4 hours, it does. If it was an hour or an hour or two.
That was something that we talked about when we were talking about when we
negotiations,
when we were going through that block, because needing a block.
Right. And a
Instead of
4 hour
1
block
hour.
as opposed to an 8 hour block feels appropriate.
Right, and some of this work that we would do it would be beneficial to not be one day. It would be beneficial to be able to do some work every month on it and be able to, over the course of the year, have some continuity.
Sure.
That's, Julie's running a vertical team right now of language arts folks, and aside from pulling them out of class and or having them, work for hours after school or pay them in the summer to come, it's really struggled to get people to be able to come for a sustained amount of times to get the work done. It's not their commitment isn't there. It's just, when do you do it?
Yeah.
So this would afford us the opportunity to have some actual time that we could schedule, and we would have some reasonable assurance we'd have the ability to get the work done. So you see those sort of sprinkled throughout. And then the other thing while we're on professional development is we had quite a bit of conversation about putting a professional full day either on the Friday before a holiday or the Tuesday after a holiday. And we made the recommendation do it on the Tuesdays, but that's up for discussion. Again, we sit in a different seat sometimes than parents sit in, and you represent in many ways, how parents think. So if you have a thought one way or the other on that, we'd be interested in hearing it.
I wasn't really concerned about the Fridays or the Tuesdays, but other people might be. I was just more concerned about what January and February look like.
Yeah, you mean the 21st and the 5th? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, really going back to school on the 6th, and then having 2 full weeks, a partial week, a full week, a partial week, a full week, a vacation week.
It does look odd.
A full week, then a partial week, then we go
But there's
straight.
no other way to do the half days. As you can see, that's the challenge.
Right, I understand. I'm just saying
Yeah.
from a parent perspective, looking at that.
Well, that's why
That-
we're doing it in
Yeah.
advance and trying to make the argument that we know it's not optimal, but we're trying to figure out how we can
Can
get
anything?
the time
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
there's so many slots to pick from.
Right.
That's the problem.
Can anything get moved to March? I mean,
I
is
know,
that-
'cause
Well,
March only has-
that's a possibility. Like if we have to move like January 21st, that might be possible to move like into
Yeah.
a full day PD there. That could possibly happen.
Yep. So,
So would you like us to think about that? And then, since we're probably not gonna vote tonight,
Yeah,
which wasn't my intention.
yeah.
Perhaps
like that
we
idea.
could
Yeah.
go back and
Yes.
think
Yep.
a little bit more about that. And what else did I have to think about?
December vacation,
About December vacation. Oh,
Christmas,
Twenty-third.
Whether or not to go back.
whether
to
or not
Oh.
to go back to
second.
second and third.
okay.
I don't believe.
Well, I
we
think
had
I was the only
I
one
think
that
that's
showed
more
concern.
you guys.
Yeah.
I think that's more
Yeah.
you guys than what I would
You
go
guys
back
seem
and
to be
do.
okay with
But
that.
but going back and
I don't
looking at
feel
the
strongly.
distribution of those full day and half days, I think we could definitely.
If it would make the distribution better, then I would say go back on the second and third. That's just
I
my.
don't know that it does make it any
yeah.
better. But
Going
I
back
like
on the second and third just moves up the last day of school. Is that what?
what would happen in that case is it would be a 1 day difference because you're going to now put the 23rd back in as a school day.
as a
I mean, as a
As a
taking it
vacation.
out as a vacation day.
Oh,
So
You
yeah,
have to put a half day
Yeah.
in somewhere. Yeah.
yeah, it'll move.
I mean, I like the idea of 2 weeks, 2 straight weeks off. But what I don't like is how January and February look
Yeah.
so disjointed. That's where I kind of had trouble.
Okay, I can take a look at that.
I'm with you too, and I would even venture to say, but this is just me, and I probably do winter holidays different from others. I wouldn't even mind if the 20th was a half day, and the 23rd was a no school day.
Are you talking
December.
about December?
December
Yeah.
20th.
Oh, say that
Okay.
again. You would say
So
what?
we have a half day on December 23rd, but if we make that a vacation day
Yep.
and make the 20th a half day, because
Oh.
again, I'm just thinking in terms of how the students are at this time, how kids are at this time of year. They're excited about the winter holiday, and so then on the 20th, you have all your school parties in the morning. The kids aren't going to do anything anyway, and then they get to go home on half a day, and then they're home with their parents for 2 weeks.
But then would you then change? What would you do on the second and third then if you gave? Because now we're
So that I
now we're
don't-
increasing the amount of time.
That
left.
I don't feel strongly about either
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
The second and
Okay.
third.
Okay. Okay.
Do-
That I mean that's an interesting idea is to put that half day there on the 20th. It's a more logical break.
Yep.
or do parents preparing for the holidays
Want-
need to have their children in school so that they can? Well, that's not really
Yeah, I was going to say.
what we're thinking about.
Really, you're trying, but it is a factor. I
Right,
get
right.
it.
That's why I had to say I probably do the summer holidays a little differently than it. And some people probably want their kids in school on the 23rd.
I'm sure they'll be,
Right.
yeah.
All right. So
Okay,
you're
so
clear
we'll,
on.
we'll do that and we'll come back to the next meeting. And
You're
hopefully
never gonna
we'll be able
make
to have a
everyone
vote.
happy.
And if in the
No.
meantime, you have some thoughts on it individually, please feel free to drop me an email or give me a call so we can,
I don't feel
factor in
strongly.
your thoughts. All right?
All right,
Thank
moving
Thank
right
you.
along.
Thank you for your time.
Julie.
Julie, come on up.
Oh, one of my favorites, a writing
I know,
initiative.
this is the Ann Blythe
This-
agenda item. to-
Special.
I loved this, looking at this,
Oh.
because I love writing too.
Oh,
yes. So I was so excited to see this.
Oh, God. Alrighty. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, you all have this in your packets, and I wanted to put it together. I thought of a few different ways to organize my thinking on what we're doing in the district for writing. And we could have gone the PowerPoint route, but we thought you've probably seen enough of that lately. And we also wanted to have something that we could share with teachers. I shared this with my ELA vertical team on Monday. And, also something we could put on the website to give people a little bit more insight in terms of what we're working on as a district and what we're looking at. So the first page really dealt with some research. We're pretty heavily assessing the research that's out there on writing and what we're doing and how we're doing it and what the experts are saying. And we organized it in a framework, hopefully, that was easy for you to understand, the elementary, the middle, and high school, because
Definitely.
the skill sets are different at each particular section, if you want to think of it that way, of schooling. And so but you can see where they all build on each other as well, so you have to have those foundational skills so that you can excel at the skill of writing over time and across content. And so I was hoping that you got that that piece out of it, and you weren't, it wasn't too humdrum. I was a little concerned about that. I do love
exciting.
research.
I
I
loved
mean, maybe
it.
people aren't as excited about it as I am, but
Yeah, no, I loved it too, yeah.
I was very excited about it.
good. I'm glad. I'm glad. And so this year we had a pretty intense focus on writing. It's part of our district and strategic plan. And in part of each school's plan, if you think back to the presentations that the principals gave, it's something that we've all
Mission
focused on.
statement, right?
Yes, and it's part of
Yeah,
our
and
part of the high school
mission
mission
statement.
statement.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a very important skill that we're hyper focusing on right now, but we don't intend to lose sight of either. So it's right here in front of us, and it's something that we're working on through our ELA vertical work, but also teachers are working on this every day. We've had a lot of professional development around this. We're looking at our units of study and aligning to the new frameworks and assessing what those expectations are and how what we do fits into those new state expectations. And we're feeling good about it. I mean, it's good work. It's enjoyable work, and the teachers have done incredible things. The principals have been very supportive. Our professional development providers have been right on the money in terms of the instruction that our teachers are receiving, but also answering questions and helping to build over time a depth of knowledge that we want our teachers to have, but also that we want to have ourselves, so that when we're talking about it and thinking about it, we understand how writing impacts our kids in so many ways. You know that. It's something that it's a skill that we want to see grow over time, and we want our children to be better at it and more, and write for a variety of genres, and feel skilled and comfortable with that.
And it's cross-curricular.
I was
mean,
going to say, and
exactly.
and it transcends
Absolutely.
the curriculum.
Oh, in every way.
Right.
In every way.
Okay.
That's
Yes,
the one
and
skill
it's
I think
integrated into all the
with
different
reading, right? That transfers into every content.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the battles you have with kids is, well, I don't have to worry about it. It's only my science, whatever. And it's like, no, you know, you have to. It has.
You're right in every subject.
Or good grammar never takes a vacation.
Yes, that's right.
The one thought that came to my mind as I was reviewing this was what kind of, I suppose, support or instruction or professional development with regards to writing are teachers getting for addressing the different learning styles of the students in their classroom? Because this seemed to cover, understanding writing, understanding what the children need to know, but I think that there's, this diversity of learners in any classroom, and the pathway to getting to understanding one of these can be quite diverse. And I was just wondering
Absolutely.
if teachers are
Yeah.
getting that
type of work as well.
that breadth of
thought
understanding
process.
about
And that's
how do you
definitely,
accomplish this in a classroom with a lot of diverse.
if you think about yourself as a writer, you have to think about how you'll process an assignment, if we want to think of it in terms of an assignment. And we will all probably go about it differently. You may be a person that really needs to organize it. I have to highlight and take notes on the side. I mean, this is the way I think and how I do things. But you may have to create a graphic organizer or just start writing. And so that is definitely something we have been working on and will continue to work on. Next year we want to work a little bit more deeply in those areas and looking at student work and trying to understand that we may not all come to it the same way, but we still have the same
this end
skills.
goal, but we have these many paths to getting there. And
Yeah, and our process, our whole focus of writing is on the writing process.
Right.
So, teachers are taught through their training to, how do, what are the stages of a writing lesson and a good writing development? What do
Absolutely.
good writers do? How are we making sure we're modeling for students? That we have this document that we've been working on that really, I think, describes the expectations and the process for how, because if you teach it through a process, you're going to be able to meet the needs of your learners. If you just say, this is the assignment and this is the one way that you can do it,
Right.
that's where you run into
That is where you run
having
into
more difficulty with that. But if you teach it through a process
Right.
and you're conferencing and you're dealing with it through the process, you're more
Absolutely.
likely to be able to differentiate for the students that
Absolutely.
need it.
And
And
I-
that is the focus of how we're training our teachers.
I also love the focus on the community of writers at the elementary school level, because,
Sure.
helping students to feel safe writing, putting down their ideas is, that you need to build their confidence that
And
they
sharing
have
those
good
ideas.
ideas.
Absolutely.
No matter, how diverse they may be. And that's the foundation. I think if a student doesn't feel confident in their ideas, it's gonna be
Absolutely.
a lot harder to
I
get
just
those
more
down on
think
paper.
about when the students go home. At home they've got a task, a writing task to do, and perhaps they're getting a lot of support in the classroom on the one hand. Okay, so but a parent doesn't know. A
Yeah.
parent just sees this is where you're expected to be. So I think there might also be a need. My sense is that what happens in classrooms today around writing is radically different from probably what a lot of parents experienced as
Oh, yeah.
students.
I would agree
And
with that.
so they may have this expectation, this is how I did it, so this is how you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I think this says to me, we're really embracing this diversity of pathways and knowing these different steps in the writing process, so
And
that
learning-
kids aren't
and
getting
learning
mixed
about what your
messages and getting
skill-
confused about what am I doing and trying to please my mom and trying to please my teacher.
Well, that I'm afraid our writing program's not going to fix.
That's the perennial problem. Well,
That is a big challenge. I face that with my own kids. Mom, my teacher knows. But part of what I've seen in classrooms as I've been walking through, and I did a walkthrough at Pembroke the other day, and it was just so wonderful to see the engagement of the students. And that the students, when I sat with them and said, they were talking about public service announcements that they had to do. And they were able to, they controlled the process. The teachers were really facilitating and talking to individual students, and in some cases steering the whole class. But those kids knew what their job was and why they were doing what they were doing and what their process was and how they were making decisions as writers about what went on the paper. That's what you ideally want.
Yeah.
But, and we have done many trainings for parents, and we will never stop
Right,
trying it.
right.
But I can tell you that they don't come. If you do a family literacy where you're playing games with the children and there's food and, all that, you're more likely to get them to come. But generally speaking, when we've offered parent education, there's more teachers there than there are parents. Now, I'm not saying we should stop doing that. We've been
Right,
talking about,
absolutely, yeah.
can we do webcasts and put them up on our website so parents can click on and say, okay, this is how we teach writing, here's a writing
Well,
lesson.
and this is what a writing classroom looks like,
Yes.
because to some parents, a writing classroom might look like chaos, and the teacher has no control over these kids. And I think that there's a good deal. I mean, probably as administrators, you needed to be trained in how to look at what's effective in a writing classroom.
Sure.
And so then the next level is, how do you convey that to a parent who walks through the school and says, it looks crazy in that room, those kids are all talking, and even though what they're doing is conferencing with each other and making suggestions and moving, I think.
And I think for us to get information out there is what we're working on, so that people understand this. It may look messy at times, however,
Right.
there is a lot going on, and this is how we develop good writers.
But we don't expect parents to educate their children in the same way that the classroom teacher's gonna do it during the
sure.
day.
Right.
So we understand that there may be times when there's that tension, and we encourage parents to let the child,
Take the lead.
kind of take the lead, and if you wanna help them and assist them, but we don't expect it to be a battle. And we certainly don't want the parent, being responsible for the work.
Sure.
Because, that can be a tendency too, right?
And I don't know, at Pembroke, this is the first year, I don't have a child in Pembroke, and it still makes me sad. But are you still doing WPP for homework?
Donna, you're not doing WPP
Yes.
for homework, or are you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
4 and 5,
Okay.
okay. And I remember there was a lot of parent instruction, there were workbooks and there was all kinds of ways to help parents understand how to best help their children with that.
It's hard, it's
But,
hard
I
as
mean,
a
parents
parent.
still had questions, but there were
place
resources.
to go.
Yes.
But we know
place to
that's
go.
part of what we
That
need
is-
to do, is
yeah.
continue to put education into
And one of the
process.
things like in I can say from personal experience, in middle school, I have 3 boys that had the same middle school English teacher. They're vastly different writers. I have 2 that are very, very wordy and descriptive, and one that if you want to put,
Say it as short as you
if you
can.
give him a topic sentence, he feels that he gets it covered in about 3 sentences, and he's done. But the way that this teacher explains it, I mean, he goes to the whole graphic organizer and gets, but all 3 of them like have different approaches. So,
Yeah.
Because I think writing is so individualized.
but they have the tools that they each
They
need.
know
Teach
that
the
they
tools,
can
that's right.
Right.
tap
they
into this skill set, and this is how I'll get it done.
What is
Right.
graphic organizer?
It sometimes, it could be a lot of different things, but it's an organizational tool. So you will have, if you're going to write, let's say, a 5-paragraph essay, it's a visual for a student. So the first box might say first paragraph, topic, sentence, and then details would
Yeah.
be the second box, and then
Could be a web,
it could be a web. It could be
a whole bunch of references.
It's an outline,
it
or
could be
you know,
yeah, it could be anything, but it's a shape. Generally speaking, it's a visually
It's a visual shape.
organized tool to help students come to it. Not so that they're writing right off the
How do
bat the
you-
topic sentence. They're organizing their thoughts around the process first.
How do you identify one student versus another? And
Well, they're all different. You have
Yeah,
to
that's
know
what I
your
mean.
students. You have to know your students.
that's
but
And
how
you-
do you?
It's working with them,
It's-
conferencing, understanding where their strengths and weaknesses are, just by their nature. Are they the student that won't pick up a pencil until they've thought it through? It's really paying very close attention to where your students are in the process and knowing them as best you can.
Teacher is
It's
coach or
all about-
facilitator.
It's keeping work
rather than
in
as
the
the talk
classroom.
and talk in front of the classroom. It's
Right.
a really different
It-
way. It's
you have to know
the definition of teacher just changes.
You have
when
to
you're
know
gonna
your
let each
students.
student.
You have to know what
develop.
kids, you have to know what students need to know and be able to do. Then you
Right.
have to look at the learners in your room, and what you do is you teach these skills and strategies, and then you can quickly figure out which kids gravitate
gravitate.
toward, there are some,
Right.
I'm a very visual person, that's why I take the notes, and and I don't even look at the notes after the fact, but the fact that I write it helps me remember it. So I know Julie has a different style perhaps, but I might immediately go to a graphic organizer, and she may never use a graphic organizer. She may draft and draft and draft. But, we give them tools, and then they make decisions about, they put
What
their,
works.
they learn what writers do, and we use models of good literature. Like if we want to talk about leads, we pick some books that have great leads and get them to think about what makes this such a good lead. And then they have a chance to try out the leads in their work.
all right.
Sounds like I
So
missed
it's a
out
process.
on a lot.
I'm sorry, what?
So, Julie,
Right.
Julie did lay out the next steps here. Does anybody have any specific
I love it.
questions or anything else that you?
No, I really like it.
I'm so happy. I love it too.
I've
I
been
mean,
waiting
this-
for 5 years for it.
I know you have.
So,
And I keep
hear
telling you,
that.
it's a process, Ann. It's a process.
oh,
Ann Donahue got the science
Science
curriculum
curriculum,
before
and
she
I-
left, and now you got some writing
yep. And I got
information.
the writing readiness.
We aim to please.
Love it. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Julie.
Great, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Julie. I
Thank
appreciate it. All right, moving right along. Superintendent's information for the committee.
No, I just would
Question?
mention the MASC Day on the Hill.
Day
if
on the
there's
Hill
people
got
that wanna-
canceled.
Yeah, I know. It's being rescheduled, though.
Yeah, but I like the letter they sent out saying it was a perfect storm of why they couldn't have it.
Yes.
Let's see, and then the financial report for the town is really interesting. If anyone has a
Yes.
chance to read it,
Very interesting. Very interesting.
so I thought that was nice and
Yeah, I
thank-
wanted you to have that. Mike
Yeah.
gave it to the department
It's-
heads, and I
I
thought it was
appreciate
interesting.
that.
Yeah. All right. Financial report, line item transfers. Let's see. Any questions on those? Chair will entertain a motion to approve line item transfers numbered 191 through 218 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next is budget and finance.
Yes, you have your reports. the munis budget report, what I would like to say is that this past week, we implemented a budget freeze. We have a couple of pending special ed placements we're waiting on right now, so we decided that to be safe, because we really don't have any place to go in the budget at this late date, besides tapping the school budget. So we put a spending freeze in place. If people need stuff to complete their initiatives, whatever, they just email me. I give them approval based on what the request is, and they do have money in their lines. And if we don't need it, if Donna comes to me and says this placement isn't taking place, then we'll lift the freeze and they can go back to utilizing their monies. What you'll notice on the first page is that right at the bottom, the special ed tuition contingency line, which is the last line on this front page, we've tapped it all except $629 of the $250. So
that was what we asked for in fall town meeting.
Right, and we reported that to the finance committee last week, so they're aware of it.
And even with that 250, we have a spending freeze.
Yes, because there's a couple of placements. But what I don't want you to worry about is if you look at the bottom line, this says it's $31,000, and if you look at the special ed outside placement line, we're in the negative $246,000.
You haven't applied circuit breaker
We
yet.
haven't done anything with circuit breaker. We're waiting, and we have, I don't know, $320,000 in circuit breaker right now. So I'm a little worried because we don't encumber substitutes and student activity. So, the $31,000 isn't enough to get us through the end of the year. And, we will apply circuit breaker, but I just felt like at this point,
It's more just to be conservative.
Right.
What are we talking about for 2 placements?
Donna has had a couple of team meetings that may result in a placement or a change in a placement. It might cost us more transportation costs.
Is it hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands?
I don't think it's hundreds of
No,
thousands.
it's not hundreds of thousands. No,
Okay.
no. I didn't have that conversation. Joan did, so I'm not even sure what student she's talking about. But it would have to, at this time of the year, remember, there's only a little bit of the year left.
Right.
So the amount of money would, even if a placement was made, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be
You'd be
the full
talking about April,
amount.
May, June, 3
It would be
months.
the next year's
Right.
budget that would be
Yeah.
impacted.
Yeah.
But this year, it would be a minimal cost.
Right.
And bear in mind, we usually have spending freezes in,
October, I was told.
I was thinking Thanksgiving, so, yeah.
I thought they were all set until we had that meeting Tuesday.
This
But
isn't a spending freeze as far as like
I almost got through
copy
3 years of
machines and stuff, like no toner and things
No,
like
no,
that?
no.
No, but if you
Okay.
flip through this, there's
Yeah.
there's still money in textbooks.
Yeah.
You know what? We're not buying textbooks now, so typically they start transferring their money around and using it in different ways. And I just asked them to please not do that. If there's something they need to complete an initiative, Donna Tanner sent me a couple of emails today. She has some art thing this coming week.
Yeah, it's at
She
her art
needed to
show
spend
this week.
money. Obviously, she needed
Yeah.
to spend her money. Of course, she could spend her money. But if we could wait on some purchases that to complete our safety and security thing, we were trying to buy some monitors, so we just, we have older monitors, we're sitting on it until we know that we
can
have the
work with
money.
them.
Right.
but we-
I like the conservative approach.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I don't like the word freeze, but.
No, I used to call it a chill.
Yeah, I tried the chill, but she goes, no, it's a freeze. I'm like, okay, fine.
So budget and finance, I guess we're all set, there's nothing,
Yeah, we're all set. We met with the finance committee and,
yeah, and we're
Now
waiting to
just
hear
waiting
back.
hear.
yes.
Governance?
Let's see, governance, we just met on the 27th, and we discussed head lice policy, of which we're looking at Beverly's policy, which was put together by Catherine Riccio, and we all like that, so Carol's going to write up a draft, and then we're going to have that available for the school committee to review on April 11th.
It would be a distribution.
A distribution.
It's a new
The
policy.
first, right.
So we wouldn't comment on it unless you had things it would really be in your packet for your review.
Right.
Negotiating?
We met last night with GISA, and things are going well.
I think the GISA, we have a tentative agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
What
So we need executive session next meeting?
What I've asked them to do is to
yeah.
try to make sure it's here, so what you'll get in terms of a tentative agreement is just a summary of the major points that were agreed to, the salary scale. Last night we worked on job descriptions, and I've I fixed those up today and sent them out for their review. So we're really trying to work on getting it in the packet for the 11th. And then you would have an executive session.
Okay.
Oh, one thing though, Ann, one of the things we talked about last night, they're thinking they're gonna struggle to get all of the information to their people and fully discuss, because there are some significant changes for some pieces of that union. So oftentimes you have the union ratify and then the school committee ratifies, but it may work, because you're gonna have to talk about the teacher's contract probably on the 25th.
Yep.
And to do both of those in executive session is really a lot to have you be able to go through. So if we can be okay with potentially ratifying on the 11th, even if the teachers or the aides haven't ratified,
Okay.
you know, I think that's fine.
Well, what
in
we
the
can do is
process.
we can review it and then approve it in
And contingent
in concept, contingent upon the final language, like we did.
well, you'll have the final language.
Okay.
But it's more generally labor, labor ratifies before
First.
management, right? But I think it's going to work out fine. I mean,
Okay.
you can, if they don't ratify, then obviously we go back
Then
to
it
the
doesn't
drawing
matter.
board.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate it if we can get everything ready for the 11th to have the
Okay.
opportunity to do that.
PR.
Yes, we met on March 22nd, and we have another meeting scheduled for April 5th. We primarily discussed the website, and, you know, we talked about how the website is a living, breathing entity, and we're just trying to continually improve it and make it more user-friendly.
All right. Safety.
We've not had a safety meeting since the last school committee meeting.
All right. School building. Are we?
I think the only thing I just wanted to, and Ellie talked about it, was the joint meeting that's coming up with the GAA, Park and Rec, and Concom, and that's April 3rd, Pembroke Library, 7 p.m., and that's just to review those athletic fields.
Right. Old business. Baker Adams deliberation meeting reschedule. Oh,
Yeah.
That has to do with, Rob
I
can't
have a
make it. He has
I'm
yeah.
not-
Rob
I'm
has a
not in town.
conflict.
So the question is, does the committee want to come up potentially?
You guys
Does-
want to do a
we
new
wanna-
date?
Yeah, we want to do a new date so everybody
So
can be part of
when
it.
can?
Very much would like.
But do you want to have Laura pull you, because I'm also thinking,
Yeah. What is an?
I'm thinking Lorene, we would, although we probably can't wait to find out
No, we
whether the
can't.
new person is going to, whoever's going to be on is.
So you're gonna get the. Why don't you forward Laura dates that you can or absolutely cannot do? But
What is the window?
you're gonna get the application packages on May 10th.
May 10th.
Okay.
And we have to have.
You
the-
need a full week. I mean, I think
Yeah, I
you're gonna
think we
need.
talked about
we
needing a
talked
full
about
week.
needing a full week.
Right, to
Okay.
review them.
So
So when do we have to actually have the decision made?
you have to have the
by?
decision just made by graduation. So June
Which is
8th.
June 8th.
But you'd want to have it a little bit before.
Yeah.
June,
I mean,
Want to prepare all the.
right.
So you have
The
the week,
latest.
so you have what,
Tuesday, June 4th. What do you think?
Okay,
So March 20th was the original, May 20th was the
Right.
original date.
right.
Yeah.
So,
So
You're saying
is there anything the following week? that People could do, let's see.
we have school
Memorial
committee
Day's
on
the 27th.
23rd. Oh,
So okay, so you need till the 17th. Let's just see here.
I could do the 22nd or the 29th, which is a Wednesday.
There's a high school chorus concert. on
Rob,
the
when are you
22nd.
out?
I could do the 29th.
I can't remember your dates.
let's see.
I could do the 29th, not the 22nd.
I'm,
I think Rob is
I'm
out
out
20.
Monday, I'm out 20, 21, 22.
So are you around on the 29th, Rob?
Yes.
What about you, Barbie?
29th works
29.
for
What
me.
about you, Pam?
Sounds good.
What about you, Alana? Let's
29th
book
works
it.
for me.
Let's book it while we can.
All right.
Book it, you know.
Done.
Book it, Dan. All right. All right. So that's Baker Adams, right?
What day of the week is that?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It will be
And
Pearly?
Pearly.
Pearly, okay.
7
That's
or
yeah.
earlier. 7?
Well, you tell me. I'm
7.
seven's good. Okay. All right.
All right.
Wonderful.
All right, new business. We have
Be easy.
middle school donation from the PTA. Once again, they're donating for the Jump Up and Go program, which they've been doing for a number of years now, which I think is really well attended.
It's a great.
Yeah, it's nice. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the $787.50 donation from the Georgetown PTA with gratitude.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I forgot discussion, but motion carries. Next up is a donation from Mr. Scott Jones. This I found kind of interesting just because I'm not a engineering person at all. So he donated supplies he used from a class that he taught to Cub Scouts. And it includes pulleys, weights, gauges, and electronic kits.
Yeah, the pictures
It's pretty
are in
cool.
here.
So very
That's
cool.
really cool stuff.
And nice of him to think of the schools. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the science supplies donation from Mr. Scott Jones with gratitude.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Once again, thank you to everyone that continuously donates either, time, money, or things like the science kit. It's very thoughtful and greatly appreciated.
Hey, could I just add one
Yeah.
quick thing? I forgot to do this, but I think it's important, is the DECA kids went to the States, remember?
Yeah.
So, Lisa Ryer sent me a little note today saying the following students are going to the Nationals. Ryan Bahar, Katie DeMeo, John Max Howland, Rory Kavanaugh, Jeremy McFadden, Joey Torgerson, Nick Bovio, Chelsea Burke, and Kitty Trujillo. Now, a couple of them aren't able to go, but they made it. I guess that's the point. And I think that's, again,
Congratulations.
that's an amazing.
Congratulations to Mrs. Ryer and the
And
DECA
it's
team.
an amazing accomplishment, and I really, I'm just so glad I thought
Now,
of it.
where is
'cause I-
Nationals?
where does she?
Anaheim,
California. Anaheim, California.
Yes.
Wow.
Congratulations.
I went to Boston to be a judge at the
Yes.
state level, and there was a lot of
This year?
competition. Yes, there was a lot of competition, let me tell
So
you.
she'll be
the
here
fact
soon
that
asking
our
for-
students,
She
did
probably
so
got
well.
she better have a field trip,
Very
yeah.
impressed.
I think that's
Oh,
phenomenal.
that's
How many was
awesome.
that? Like 10?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
That's fantastic.
Going to nationals for
Yeah, out of Georgetown.
out of
you know, I mean,
Georgetown.
I
Out
really-
of
I
again
think she said there were-
400 students in the
Yeah,
entire
roughly,
high,
yeah,
high school.
I-
And I
I'd
think
say
there were
100 a class.
36 that went to districts, and then I think there were like 20,
That's
20
incredible.
26
That
of them
is really
placed.
incredible.
I mean, it's an amazing
And only,
accomplishment.
those are usually, what, just juniors and seniors?
Juniors and seniors, because you have to have taken a business class.
So
I
it's
think
two-
that
so-
sophomores now, you might be able to.
I think
So out of
a
200.
couple sophomores, not a lot, but a very few.
Great.
Well, anyway, thank you, Ian, for giving me that minute.
No,
to-
congratulations to everybody.
Yeah, that's great.
Couple of reminders, middle school play next Friday, April 5th at 7, and Saturday, April 6th at 2 o'clock at the middle high school auditorium.
Yes.
The GEF Gala is next Saturday, April 6th at the Black Swan. And then there is the field discussion at Pembroke, and that's a joint meeting on Wednesday, April 3rd at 7 p.m.
Great.
All right, so Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Me too.
Have a happy Easter, everyone.
Oh, yes, happy Easter. I didn't dare say that.
So wait.
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh, well.
Empty it.